Hello everyone, my name's Emily and this is SumSub, a channel all about survival in the online jungle. I want to understand why the hype around NFTs is more and more reminiscent of a stock bubble. Today we'll talk about whether it's still possible to make money on non-fungible tokens and when the big bang will happen. So, this is Alex Chu. In 2005, he was just a struggling student. Alex lived with his parents in a small house in Wiltshire, England, and was puzzling over where to find the money to fund his studies at Nottingham University. He tried a number of ideas, including organising meetings of beatboxers, a personal hobby of his, and coming up with a pouch for used chewing gum, but all of these undertakings were far from successful. However, one night, an idea came to him that was amazing in its simplicity. He spent his last £50 to buy a catchy domain name and made a one-page website in 2 days. With the help of this site, just 4 months later, Alex earned his first $1 million. But do you know what he was selling on this site? Pixels, coloured dots on the screen. The whole site is a picture of 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. You could buy a pixel for as little as $1 a piece. But there were two conditions. Firstly, the value of the transaction could not be less than $100, and secondly, no porn. Now, after paying for your pixels, you could post any image on the site and add a link to your own website. Uploaded images and links remained yours forever. It's really a very simple idea. Now, the project caused quite a stir. Alex sold the last 1,000 pixels on New Year's Eve on eBay. They went for $39,000, almost 4 times more expensive than the ordinary pixels. But so much money appearing out of thin air played something of a cruel joke on Alex. He dropped out of school and moved to London, and there, together with his new friends, Alex tried to repeat the success of his first site. He launched a series of projects with similar mechanics. Now, have you ever heard about 1 Million People, Pixelotto, PopJam? Well, unsurprisingly, no, you haven't. They failed. What was cool the first time round turned into an unsuccessful copy of a once original idea. People willing to participate in these kinds of projects were few and far between. Now, several years later, the internet blew up another project in which you were offered to buy a unique sequence of numbers for real money. Of course, such a proposal would hardly have become popular if it hadn't been backed up by an unusual combination of technology and emotion. I'm talking about CryptoKitties. From the user's point of view, this is a collectible game in which you buy a digital kitten. Now, it isn't able to meow, but it has a dozen special characteristics. The shape of the tail, the eyes, the colour and length of fur. Some of the cats are smiling, some of them aren't. Now, the mechanism of the service guarantees that you will be the owner of a unique and inimitable pet. There's no such thing as twins in this digital feline world, but if you have 2 kittens, then they can become parents of other kittens, and their parents' digital genes will be transferred to them. Now, the more rare characteristics a pet has, the higher its value. It's very similar to Pokemon, only there's no battles involved. So, Canadian programmers immediately provided an auction service for the resale of kittens. At the end of 2017, riding on the wave of popularity, their costs skyrocketed. If the first CryptoKitties were sold for a few dollars, then after a few months, the cost of these rare animals had climbed as high as $140,000. For comparison, let's consider that the most expensive real cat in history, a Bengal named Kato, cost the owner $100,000 less at only $41,435. Everyone everywhere was talking about kittens. In a few months, the amount of kitties being traded grew, and a flood of new users joined the game. They brought the developers about 20 million, and then they crashed the system. There were so many people that wanted to own a kitten that actually, in December 2017, their transactions completely overwhelmed the capacities of the Ethereum platform. Now, each cat was just a token tied to the ether. But user transactions exceeded 15% of the total turnover, and the system was unprepared for this. Cryptocurrency trading was suspended, and users learnt their first lesson about cryptocurrency trading. All transactions take place without any guarantees. This is not stock trading or playing around with exchange rates. Legislation on working with cryptographic values, whether we're talking about coins or tokens, in principle, didn't exist yet. Purchases of any cryptocurrency from the point of view of the law were akin to an exchange of real money for notes from Monopoly. It's therefore unsurprising that the interest in CryptoKitties swiftly waned. But there are still stories online about how the first users successfully made money from the resale of these rare animals. Now, this prompted programmers to begin to refine crypto platforms. The owners of the Ethereum platform increased commissions for such transactions, and businessmen became seriously interested in the ERC-721 protocol, which describes NFTs in detail. In the very same year, 2017, thousands of copycat projects and original platforms sprung up. Most of them have long been forgotten, but you've probably heard about a couple of them. For example, CryptoPunk or Bored Ape Yacht Club, which are still attracting new buyers. We know that you guys love to hear stories about money laundering, and I've got some really exciting news for you. Tony, head of legal at SumSub, has recently done a new interview with Raj Karangura, an experienced money laundering reporting officer from London. Now, Raj advises numerous financial companies in areas such as crypto, forex, and online payments. Raj has real hands-on experience as an MLRO in these rapidly emerging industries. In this video, Tony discusses a risk-based approach in crypto transactions, which tools to use, as well as detecting and reporting suspicious transactions.
Cash is still king when it comes to laundering crypto. Crypto is getting a bad name because it's the young kid on the block.
Sound interesting? Then I highly recommend checking out our new channel, SumSub for Experts. Now, my colleague Bradley spoke about the beginning of the second wave of interest in crypto tokens more than a year ago. And since then, everything has happened right in front of us. For a world that was previously only interesting to a very small audience, a lot of money has come into the world of digital art. Well, no. Not just a lot of money, but big money, huge money. And you can be the judge of this yourself. This collage of works by Mike Winkelmann was sold at auction at Christie's for $69 million. It used to be the works of Picasso, Van Gogh, and Modigliani that fetched a high price at auction. Now it's a link to a digital painting. By the way, this point is one that is overlooked by many. By buying an NFT token, you're not buying the rights to an image, or words, or music. You're just buying a line in the database. It uniquely matches two combinations of characters, your ID and the token description. It can be a text, characteristics of a kitten, or a link to a picture. But nothing more. So why do people pay such vast sums of money for them? Well, there are three main categories of buyers. The first are investors. Their goals are clear. Buy an inexpensive good in a growing market. It's not important exactly what, it's just that the price will increase consistently. And then sell it for more money than they bought it for. From this perspective, the item should have a mechanism for transfer and a potential number of buyers. Now, there are no problems with the transmission mechanisms of NFTs, but no one can guarantee the availability of buyers. This is the first tweet ever posted on Twitter. Jack Dorsey wrote it in March 2006 when he was testing the platform. In 2021, Dorsey generated an NFT using the link for it and sold it as part of a charity auction for almost $3 million. Now, it was bought by Sina Estavi, who heads a Malaysian startup. Estavi didn't hide that he bought the NFT for investment purposes. And by April, this very same token came up for auction again. Estavi planned to get at least 50 million for it. But he was faced with a harsh reality. The maximum bid was 2.2 Ether, or, in dollars, $6,856. A rather dubious investment, isn't it? Well, I think we'll see more and more of such examples every day. The second category of buyers are those that use NFTs for dirty financial schemes. Now, I don't want to repeat topics we've already discussed, so just take a look at this graph. The green line shows the number of unique sellers on the NFT market. The red line shows the number of unique buyers. Now, if you're to trust your own eyes, then the number of sellers is constantly equal to the number of buyers. Can you imagine if in the real world individual shops were built for each of us? Is this even possible? But it's not infrequent that AML experts come across something like this when investigating schemes for cashing money. To legalise large amounts of money, criminals use schemes that involve one-day firms. They're created for one transaction and then disappear. And we can see something similar in action with NFTs. The scheme is pretty simple. You buy cryptocurrency for legal money and then spend it on an item from a popular NFT collection. A few months later, you just have to buy the necessary amount of cryptocurrency using dirty money and anonymously purchase the NFT from yourself. And that's it. The transaction is open, legal, and is outside the traditional framework of regulations. In February, the US Treasury Department published a study on how works of art are used in money laundering schemes. Now, a special place in it was given to countering the legalization of income with the help of NFTs. It seems that we're waiting on a serious tightening of legislation in the field of control of such operations. But we still have one more group of buyers to discuss: ordinary people. The first two categories, by their actions, can inflate the prices of NFT items up to the skies. And such stories, of course, are a tasty morsel for any journalist or blogger. It's no wonder we hear about them everywhere. But honestly, have you never had the desire to try and make money using NFTs? If you buy an inexpensive NFT, and suddenly it might double in value. And now imagine that you can influence its value by some relatively effortless actions. I'm not talking about buying a computer for mining. That's obviously difficult and expensive. But for example, something as simple as visiting a website regularly or doing some exercise. For example, walking, as was the case with Pokemon Go. Then the time you put into it will at the same time be productive. Now, this definitely has some pretty interesting applications, doesn't it? The founders of the Australian startup STEPN thought the same. They have combined the concept of move to earn and collectibles auctions from CryptoKitties. To start earning cryptocurrency, this time it's Solana, you'll have to buy an NFT of virtual sneakers. Now, these sneakers have unique characteristics, and these characteristics affect earnings. They determine the time of your paid workout and the type of activity, walking, jogging, or running. If you want to earn more, buy more expensive sneakers. A special calculator helps you to calculate your balance. You've got to agree, it's very similar to creating a character in some RPG. Apart from that, everything is pretty simple. Walk or run, earn virtual currency, which can be used for improving or repairing your sneakers, buy a new pair, or multiply already purchased ones. Yes, in the world of STEPN, sneakers are able to reproduce. Now, the only slightly confusing thing is that, in addition to Solana, 2 internal currencies are used in the system. I reckon that this startup will make an appearance on our news feeds again soon. Right now, it's working in a closed format, so to become a participant in the project, you need an invitation, and these are issued by other players and the owners of STEPN. While the number of invitations is at the moment strictly limited, the project is somewhat similar to that of an exclusive fitness club. But already there is a whole market for the sale and combining of sneakers. The cost of a pair of souped-up digital sneakers can already be measured in thousands of dollars. But from what income are payments made to the participants of the system? The first source of income is investors' money. Investing in growing crypto projects is now considered common courtesy. In the first months of its operation, in fact, the project attracted $5 million from 16 investment funds. The second is advertising contracts. Branded collections of sneakers have already been released by ASICS. Surely there'll be other contracts with manufacturers of sports equipment. The third is the commission for in-game purchases, so to speak. It's 6%, and in just the last quarter of the last year, it turned over more than $26 million. Now, does this look like a pretty convincing scheme to you? Well, that's the problem. So let's quickly go back to CryptoKitties. After their first drop, they managed to attract first $12 million from investment funds, and then another $15 million from Samsung. But investment clearly doesn't mean success. Now these digital fluffy animals have become part of internet history. Now, advertising budgets are all well and good, but would you advertise cat food to the owners of digital animals? Well, it's the same situation here. There might be more and more participants using STEPN to increase the price of sneakers, but it's unlikely that many of them are real runners. And finally, in-game payments. This is a good and steady source of income. The creators of Roblox, for example, make money this way. Now, we've talked about this in detail in one of our past videos, so I won't go over it again now. The problem is that according to Forbes, only 2.3 million active participants are currently registered in the system. It turns out that each of them brought the system at least $11. Now please note, they didn't earn this money. On the contrary, they brought it in. Now here is the biggest difference with Roblox. Most of the players go on Roblox to have fun and spend money. STEPN positions itself precisely as a move to earn. And yet it turns out that the average participant is still in the red. In fact, even more than you think. Look at this graph. The exchange rate of the main domestic currency is falling rapidly. The simplest sneakers allow you to earn 1.7 GST per day, that is about 20 cents. Compare it with the peak, when the same sneakers could bring you $10 to $15. Now let's go back to Boston for a moment in August 1919. A young and enterprising emigrant from Italy, Charles Ponzi, told his friends about a win-win financial scheme. At the beginning of the century, large countries concluded an agreement that you can buy ordinary postage stamps not only for money, but also exchange them for a special coupon. You put such a coupon in an envelope to the addressee in another country, who would then exchange the coupon for stamps to send a reply. Now this system worked fine before the First World War, but when the European economy went into decline, a peculiar situation developed. In Italy, you could only get one stamp for a coupon, whereas in the US, you could get 6 at once. Now Ponzi offered to take advantage of this situation, to buy coupons inexpensively, travel across the border, and make a profit of 50% in 3 months. He didn't have any money of his own, so he gave his friends an opportunity to finance this venture. One of them agreed to invest $200 in the company. And this is how the Securities Exchange Company appeared. News about the financial startup spread all over the city, and soon the company was attracting $250,000 a day. However, this story came to an end as early as 1920. Ponzi's friend, the one who made the initial investment, demanded 50% of the company's current income through the court. Now he lost the lawsuit, but the Ministry of Finance became interested in the huge revenues this company was generating. It soon became clear that the way the Ponzi scheme worked was completely differently to how it had been described. Ponzi didn't buy any coupons. In fact, this story was invented solely for authenticity's sake. In fact, the Ponzi scheme paid dividends to the old participants at the expense of the new ones. A beautiful legend, aggressive advertising, and a constant influx of new users who dream of a return on their investments. Does it remind you of anything? Now, I'm sure none of you have missed the news about Bitcoin's dramatic fall from grace. Crucially, the flagship cryptocurrency is now dragging the entire crypto market down to the bottom. Remember I mentioned the Bored Ape Yacht Club project? Recently, the man who changed the modern world made reference to it on TechCrunch. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft and one of the richest people in the world, used this NFT as an example.
I don't know, I mean, obviously expensive, digital images of monkeys are going to improve the world immensely.
We all agree on that.
And, that's so incredible.
Now, Gates attributed the success of the NFT market as a whole to the theory of the bigger fool. When the buyer of an overpriced asset expects to sell it to someone who will give even more. Now, I wonder who'll be right, the creator of Windows or the industry with a turnover of 22 billion. Anyway, we'll find out soon enough. But thanks for tuning in today, guys. This was Emily with SumSub, and I'll be waiting for you on our next tour of the online jungle.